stories of Quran, the stories of Quran, the stories of the glorious Quran, the stories of Quran, the stories of Quran, the stories of the glorious Quran.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah, salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Noorallah. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, we welcome you once again in our brand new episode of the program that goes by the name of the Stories of Quran. Today, as usual, inshaAllah, we will be talking about a very interesting and beautiful story. And this story again holds a lot of Madani pearls for us, and it clarifies again a lot of concepts in terms of our faith. What story will we be covering today? Dear viewers of Madani Channel, please stay with us as it is very interesting story. We'll keep the suspense for a little longer as we'll first listen to the virtue of reciting Durood upon the noble Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has stated that there will be no shade on the day of judgment except for the throne of Allah Almighty. Three persons will remain beneath the shade of the divine throne. It was humbly asked, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who will be those people? The Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied, the one who relieves the distress of my ummati. Number two, the one who revives my sunnah. And number three, the one who recites Durood upon me abundantly. So what beautiful traits we've been told here in the blessed hadith. The one who removes the difficulty, the distress of my ummati. What a beautiful practice this is, what a beautiful task this is. So whenever we see any brother of ours, any relative of ours facing any kind of difficulty, we shall always render our help to them in whatever means possible. And secondly, we come to know that the one who revives my sunnah. So dear viewers of Madani Channel, we shall always try to act upon the sunnahs of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whenever we are eating, drinking, the sunnah of miswak, the sunnah of applying coal in the eyes, the sunnah of applying oil to our beards and our hair, the sunnah of tying imamah sharif, so on and so forth. So we shall always revive the sunnahs of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The third person is the one who recites Durood upon me abundantly, upon the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam abundantly. So we shall never be heedless from the fact of reciting Durood Pak upon the noble Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in abundance on daily basis. As much as we can, never stay away from this beautiful practice, from this beautiful action of reciting Durood upon the noble Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, today's topic, today's story is a very interesting and beautiful story as it would clarify a lot of concepts in terms of our faith, in terms of our iman. And today's story is about a woman, a very pious woman and her arch. It is none other than Sayyidatuna Maryam radiyallahu ta'ala anha and her chamber where she was kept. Sayyidatuna Maryam radiyallahu ta'ala anha, who is the mother of Hazrat Sayyiduna Isa Ruhullah ala Nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wasalam. So inshaAllah today we will enlighten our hearts by listening about Sayyidatuna Maryam radiyallahu ta'ala anha and how beautifully the Holy Quran talks about Sayyidatuna Maryam radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, Sayyidatuna Maryam radiyallahu ta'ala anha is the only woman whose name has been mentioned in the Holy Quran. So this alone shows how dignified and highly ranked she is, that there hasn't been any other woman whose name has been mentioned in the Holy Quran. But Sayyidatuna Maryam radiyallahu ta'ala anha is that woman, is that pious and highly dignified woman whose name has been mentioned in the Holy Quran. And she radiallahu ta'ala anha was the most superior amongst all the women of her era. So she radiallahu ta'ala anha was the most superior amongst all the women of her time. And in relation to the birth of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha and how she radiallahu ta'ala anha was raised up, it is very interesting. So let's, without any further delay, go into the details of when Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha was born and what circumstances there were in those days and what exactly happened at the time of her birth and how did she radiallahu ta'ala anha got to her specific chamber about which we will be discussing today. So please stay with us until the end of today's episode. Insha'Allah, our knowledge will increase immensely in regards to Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. It is narrated that Hazrat Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha was the mother of Hazrat Sayyiduna Isa Ruhullah ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wasalam. Her father's name was Imran and her mother's name was Hannah. So these are the names of the parents of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. And Hazrat Sayyiduna Zakaria ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wasalam, the Prophet of Allah Almighty, he was the uncle of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. So Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam was the husband of the sister of the mother of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. So this was the relationship between her and Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam. It is narrated that Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam and Hazrat Imran radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who was the father of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, they both were husbands of each other's wives' sisters, meaning they both had the same father-in-law. Now Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam's wife's name was Isha, whereas the name of Hazrat Imran radiallahu ta'ala anhu's wife was Hannah, as mentioned earlier, and she was the mother of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. Now Sayyidatuna Hannah radiallahu ta'ala anha, she remained childless for a very long period of time, to the extent that she became very old and felt hopeless. Now one day, Hazrat Hannah radiallahu ta'ala anha saw a sparrow under the shade of a tree who was feeding her child, and seeing this, rose an urge of having a child in the heart of Sayyidatuna Hannah radiallahu ta'ala anha. So she supplicated in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, O Allah Almighty, if you bless me with offspring, if you bless me with a child, I will make him the servant of Baitul Muqaddas and will present him for this very noble service, for this very noble task. Now, dear viewers of Madani Channel, in those days, in that era, only boys were accepted for serving Baitul Muqaddas, and girls, they were not deemed to be capable of doing this, of serving Baitul Muqaddas. Now, but Sayyidatuna Hannah radiallahu ta'ala anha, she took this oath, she vowed this oath that if, Ya Allah Almighty, you bless me with offspring, I will present him in your court to serve Baitul Muqaddas. Now, upon this vow, when she made this vow, Hazrat Sayyiduna Imran radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that, what have you done? What if a girl is born? Then how would we be able to do this? As in, if a girl is born, then how would she be able to serve Baitul Muqaddas? Now, this is what Sayyiduna Imran radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he brought his concern up in front of Sayyidatuna Hannah radiallahu ta'ala anha, because he was also a very devout worshipper and a very highly acclaimed individual of Bani Israel. He was also a very highly acclaimed scholar amongst the Bani Israel. So he also knew that only boys are accepted for the service of Baitul Muqaddas. So he was scared upon the fact that what if a girl is born, then what will we do? Because she had already taken an oath upon this. So this was the worry of Sayyidina Imran radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Now, Sayyidina Imran radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he passed away before the birth of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. Now, dear viewers of Madani Channel, look at the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that a girl was born in the family of Hazrat Imran radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Now, a boy is not born, a girl has been born in the family. Now, upon this, Sayyidatuna Hannah radiallahu ta'ala anha, she expressed her grief. she became saddened. But she became grieved and saddened because a girl was born, and she was grieved and saddened upon the fact that now a girl has been born and she will be unable to fulfill her oath, to fulfill her vow. This was the reason for her grief. It wasn't that because a girl has been born. It wasn't because of a girl, but because she was so concerned about her oath that she had taken that she wanted to fulfill it. But now she was very grieved over the fact that a girl has been born and I will be unable to fulfill my oath that I took in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, Allah Almighty showered special bounties upon her. As we mentioned earlier as well, that Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha was superior to all her contemporary women, all the women that existed in her era. She radiallahu ta'ala anha was superior than all of them. And Allah Almighty also blessed her with the rank of being the mother of Sayyiduna Isa Ruhullah ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wasalam. So these are her distinguished attributes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed her with. Moreover, Allah Almighty also accepted Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha instead of a boy for the oath and brought her up in an excellent manner. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted her for the service of Baitul Muqaddas, which was not the norms of those days, as boys were only accepted for the service of Baitul Muqaddas, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha for the service of Baitul Muqaddas. So after her birth, Sayyidatuna Hanna radiallahu ta'ala anha, she wrapped Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha in a piece of cloth and presented her to the scholars of Baitul Muqaddas so they could take her into their guardianship. Now, those scholars were considered to be extremely reverend and respectful, and it is stated that those scholars were 27 in total, and they were from the lineage of Hazrat Sayyiduna Harun ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wasalam. So this is how sacred and distinguished those scholars were who were appointed at serving the Baitul Muqaddas, that they were from the lineage of Sayyiduna Harun alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha was the daughter of Hazrat Sayyiduna Imran radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Sayyiduna Imran radiallahu ta'ala anhu was also a very prominent scholar of Bani Israel. Moreover, her family was also an extremely illustrious and learned family of Bani Israel. So there were various other attributes as well that this family possessed. Now, this was the reason why all those scholars, they showed a keen interest in adopting Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. They all wanted to bring Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha up because they considered her to be very dignified and esteemed because of her family lineage. Now, Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam, he also wanted to take the guardianship of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. That's why he said that I am most deserving of it because her aunt, meaning her mother's sister, is in my house. Meaning I am the husband of her mother's sister. Now an argument broke amongst all of them, and after all the discussions, it was concluded that they will now draw lots to decide who will take the guardianship of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. Therefore, they drew lots by using the pens that they would write Torah with. And it was mutually agreed that all of them, they will place their pens in the water. And the one whose pen starts flowing in the opposite direction of water, he will be deserving of the guardianship of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. So everyone, they placed their pens in the water. And by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the pen of Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam started flowing in the opposite direction of water. So this is how Hazrat Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam, he became caretaker of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, and Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha came under his guardianship. Now, Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam, he himself was also a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He alayhi salatu wasalam made a separate chamber on the highest level of Baitul Muqaddas, which was isolated from all other sections. And Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam kept Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha in there. Therefore, Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha began to live there isolated whilst remaining busy in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam would pay daily visits in the morning and in the evening to check on the well-being and availability of the sustenance of food provisions for Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. Now, within few days, the saintly miracles took place in the chamber of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. What were they? That when Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam would visit the chamber, he would find the fruits of winter season in summer and the fruits of summer in winter season. And Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam, he would be amazed and surprised, and out of amazement, he would inquire from Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha that, "Oh Maryam, where do you get these fruits from?" Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha would reply that these fruits are from Allah Almighty, and He Almighty bestows with immeasurable sustenance to whomsoever He wills. So, as mentioned earlier, Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam was also blessed with the rank of prophethood, but he alayhi salatu wasalam did not have any offspring, did not have any children, and he had reached an old age. For years, his heart was eager for offspring, and many a times he alayhi salam also supplicated to Allah Almighty with humility for a beautiful child, but he alayhi salatu wasalam was still not blessed with a child. Now, when Sayyiduna Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam saw the saintly miracles of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, that unseasonal fruits descend there, at that time a thought came in his heart that even though he has become very old, the season to yield the fruit of children has passed away, but Allah Almighty, who blesses out of season fruits to Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha in this chamber, He Almighty is capable to bless him with an out of season fruit in the form of child as well. So therefore, he alayhi salatu wasalam supplicated in the chamber of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, and his supplication was accepted. So Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam, he was a prophet. He supplicated in the chamber of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha for a child, and Allah Almighty blessed him with a child. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam with a son in his old age, and Allah Almighty blessed him with the name of Yahya. So this name Yahya was given to the son of Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this name Yahya had not been given to anyone else in the past. So Sayyiduna Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam was the first one to be named as Yahya, and it was by none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Sayyiduna Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam was also blessed with the rank of prophethood. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this event in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Imran, verses number 37 to 39 in the following words. The translation from Kanzul Iman is: whenever Zakaria visited her at her prayer chamber, he would find new sustenance, fruits out of season with her. He asked, "O Maryam, where did this come to you from?" She answered, "It is from Allah. Indeed, Allah gives to whom He desires without measure." At that place, Zakaria supplicated to his Lord. He requested, "O my Lord, give me from your court a righteous offspring. Indeed, only you are the acceptor of supplication." And whilst he was praying in a standing position at his place of worship, the angels called out to him, "Indeed, Allah gives you glad tidings of Yahya, who will verify a word from Allah, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, a leader, and always refraining from women, a Nabi, from one of our selected ones." So this is how Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam was given a son, and this is how Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha was brought up in her chamber, and this is how Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam was appointed at being her guardian. So these are the beautiful words in which Holy Quran mentions this beautiful story, this beautiful event in. Now, what are the moral lessons that we learn from this very incident, from this very story? Now, this event sheds light on several teachings. It is very useful for us to extract those moral lessons from it. What are those? Number one, it can be deduced from this event of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha that she was bestowed with marvels and rank of being a waliya, as divine fruits used to descend for her from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in her chamber, and the winter fruits would be delivered to her in summer, and summer fruits would be delivered to her in winter. This is a wonderful and open karama of her sainthood. Moreover, we also find that this event proves that the place where the chosen people of Allah Almighty worship becomes so sacred that the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends there, and the supplications are accepted there, just like the supplication of Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam was accepted in the chamber of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. Whereas on many previous occasions, he alayhi salatu wasalam had supplicated frequently in Baitul Muqaddas, but his supplication was not granted, it was not accepted. So when Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam, despite being a prophet, he supplicated at the place where Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha would worship, and in her special, secluded, chosen chamber. So when he supplicated in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over there, then he alayhi salatu wasalam was blessed with a pious offspring, and such a child who also became a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we come to know that the places of worship of chosen people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are very sacred in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mercy and blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descend there. So we shall always supplicate in the vicinities of where the chosen people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to perform worship, wherever they are resting. So we shall always supplicate over there. Insha'Allah azza wa jal, our du'as will also be accepted, as this story, this event in the Holy Quran and this dua of Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam is a very strong proof of this. And another moral lesson that we learn from it is that if supplications are accepted in those places where the chosen people of Allah Almighty perform their worship for only few days, then definitely supplications would be accepted beside the graves of those chosen people of Allah Almighty, where the whole blessed bodies are present. As Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, she stayed in the chamber not all her life, it was for a short period of time. So that chamber became so sacred and so blessed in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it became a place of the acceptance of du'as. So imagine the place where such chosen people of Allah Almighty will be resting themselves, where their whole blessed body would be present, how blessed that very place would be. Thus, in the same relation, Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, he mentions that whenever he rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi would feel any kind of difficulty in finding solution for any religious issue, then what would he do? He rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi would visit Baghdad, and he would sit beside the grave of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. He would supplicate by making the holy grave as the wasila, and his supplication would be granted and his problem would be resolved. So dear viewers of Madani Channel, we come to know from this beautiful event of the Holy Quran, from this beautiful story of the Holy Quran, that the chosen people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wherever they spend time, whatever place is associated with them, that place itself becomes very sacred. And we shall hold that place very distinguished and esteemed. And we shall never be heedless from asking supplications in such places. As Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam did, we shall also be doing this. So we see from the Holy Quran how interesting it was that Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam took over the guardianship of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. Under what circumstances he alayhi salatu wasalam was given the guardianship of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. And we also come to know that the parents of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, they were very pious couple. And not only that, Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha was further excelled and she radiallahu ta'ala anha attained various elevated ranks thereafter. Some of them were that she radiallahu ta'ala anha was the mother of a Nabi, of a Prophet, Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, whom she gave birth to without a father. Moreover, she radiallahu ta'ala anha is the only woman whose name has been mentioned in the Holy Quran. Moreover, she radiallahu ta'ala anha is the most superior amongst all of the women of her time. And there are various other attributes as well which have been mentioned in a hadith and in the Holy Quran regarding Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. So dear viewers of Madani Channel, we've also clarified our concept in relation to the sacred places that are associated with the righteous people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we should hold them very sacred, and we shall go and visit those places frequently, and we shall make du'as in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Insha'Allah, our du'as will be accepted, and we will also attain some share of the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are showered upon those sacred places, especially at the blessed shrines of Awliya Karam, Sahaba Karam and Anbiya Karam alayhim assalam wa alayhim wa ridwan wa rahimahumullahu ta'ala. So dear viewers of Madani Channel, this was a story of the day in which we heard about the excellences and virtues of Sayyidatuna Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha and her sacred chamber in which she would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how sacred it was. So insha'Allah azza wa jal, in our next episode, we will bring another beautiful story from the Holy Quran before you. Until then, take very good care of yourself and keep watching Madani Channel. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
The stories of Quran, the stories of Quran, the stories of the glorious Quran. The stories of Quran, the stories of Quran, the stories of the glorious Quran.